talking about what me and my team do, in addition to, what have we done with discovery, where is discovery going, where is it, what has been updated and that sort of stuff. This was actually one of my favorite presentations I got to put together because I was able to really be my true nerdy self. If you're not a Star Trek fan, you're about to miss a lot of references, but here we go. So let's talk about customizations in EDS. Why do we need those? Why do we need this customization, all this integration, the things that we're trying to do, right? At the heart of everything, everybody's site is unique, right? You've all got your own ships. They're all shaped differently. You've got different crews that are staffing them. Everybody's got a different role. And you're going to have different use cases for your discovery service. You may be targeting undergraduates more or graduate students more and all those sorts of things. So we want to make sure that we're meeting those needs. Just to talk a little bit about what EBSCO as a company believes, right? We want to focus on making sure that your users get the information that they're after. We want to put them at the center of everything that we're working on. And we understand that there aren't any two users that are the same, right? You're going to have, even among your graduate students and undergraduate students, each of them is going to have different search strategies. They're going to have different goals, that sort of stuff that they're working towards. And we want to try and have these open partnerships with people. We want to make sure that we're able to apply any technology from anybody into EDS. And so there's a lot of work that's done to make it easier for us to work with other people, to open up our APIs to people who work with us so that they can pull our information in and that sort of thing. And we'll talk about how we've done some of that. And at this point, we're a global company now, so we're having to meet needs not just of the users in Louisiana or Texas, where I'm from, but also, in Japan, in China, all over the globe. And so we have to have a service, a system that is built to be adaptable and customizable to meet all of those unique needs. The other thing that we've run into is that discovery's grown a whole lot. When it first started, when we started EBSCO Discovery Service, I was actually at St. Edward University Library, and we were a beta partner with Discovery. And at that point, Discovery was pretty much, let's get some databases in here and some open access and that sort of stuff. But over the years, we've started adding in more and more things. We've had to include different ebook publishers and packages, all these different platforms that are feeding us this metadata, making sure that we have good analysis tools for users to use. Things like holdings management have come into existence because A to Z wasn't enough. And we need to be able to work with other holdings management systems like SFX and Serial Solutions and those sorts of things. And then the list of ILSs is huge, from the giants in the industry to the tiny little ones that only a handful of libraries use. We want to make sure that we can work with as much of that as possible. So let's talk about what are the library services engineers. So my team works with a lot of different libraries, and all of us have library backgrounds, either library degrees or years of experience in libraries, and we also have that technical mindset. So we came in usually from some sort of systems position or the like into this role. We can help with the different high-level technical implementations. So if you're trying to do really advanced integrations, or you're trying to develop against the API, things like that, we can help with that sort of stuff. We also work to try and create unique solutions for individual libraries or consortia. Towards the end of this, we'll look at some of the unique things that we're doing specifically with Lewis, as well as other things that we've done along the way. And we also try to be that in between. We want to be the people who can speak IT to our technical staff, but also still speak, library-ese, for lack of a better word, to the whole library world, right? And sometimes there is difficulty in that translation as you're going from one side to the other. So a lot of times we act as that medium through which that communication can really be achieved. So again, what do we do when we're actually on site? What do we, do when we're in a WebEx with an individual library? The biggest things that we do is try to help that library customize their EDS experience to meet whatever needs they have. whether that's building search boxes, making the UI look a little bit different. If we're trying to integrate specific services, like we've done a lot of work with Springshare to get their stuff in, all the various chat services, other unique resources along the way that we've created, placards or callouts for, so that that information can be integrated, even if it's not traditional information that you'd want in a discovery service. We also get to do some fun stuff, like inventing completely new ways to solve problems. The App Store is full of these things. Everything in the App Store was an invention usually brought on because one site said, hey, I have this problem, can you solve it? And afterward, we say, that was a really good idea, let's make sure everybody can use this. And then we get into more robust things like Curriculum Builder and other things that we've got to do that are completely unique, sometimes even separate products on top of EDS. So it's a really fun role that I'm in, I'm fortunate to have. And we work really hard to try and make sure that libraries get the level of service we expected when we were on the other side of these conversations. All right, so everybody's working with the same kind of data, right? But you might have a different look and feel that you want for your individual setup. This is my favorite joke in this entire slideshow. So let's talk about the different ways that we can customize your EDS to make sure that your data is being represented the way you want it represented. Search boxes are one of the ways that we achieve this. So this is a very simple type of approach that we did for Herrick District Library. Things that are a little bit more complicated. So this is Seminary of the Southwest in the Austin area, and they have more of a tabbed search approach with a lot of different options in it. Or things that are really, really simple. So this is in Juan Library, I think that's New Mexico Community College? Could be wrong there, but where we built something that's just kind of slick and responsive, easy on the eyes, give them that Google experience. So lots of varieties that we can help create so that the site can have whatever search box they need. Even if you don't have the IT team on hand to build those for you, we try to help give you those customizations as much as possible. We also work to customize the user interface. I want to talk about this specific example in a little bit of detail, how this came to be real quick. So what you're looking at here is a color-coded availability status based on just the catalog items. And the way this came to be was I was in a meeting with Herrick District Library, and we were just kind of talking about their EDS, how was it going, things that they thought were issues and that sort of thing. And one of the librarians said, I've got this kind of obscure problem. I don't know if there's anything you can do about it, but I'm getting a lot of complaints from specifically my older patrons that they can't tell the difference between what's a catalog item in our discovery service and what's this online full text stuff. They don't want the online full text stuff. They want the physical things in the library. It's been frustrating for them because they just can't seem to distinguish between them. And I thought, okay, well that's a legitimate concern. I could see how that could happen. And so the first thing I did was build them this little drop shadow pop out for just their catalog items. And I said, well, does this help your problem? Does this solve what issue you were dealing with? And they went, okay, that's cool. Can we take it a step further? And I went, okay, hit me with this. This is when I get to put on my mad scientist hat and get real crazy here. They said, what if you could color code this based on whether or not an item was available to be checked out? And that's a much broader concept than just is it available or unavailable. You've got things like, well, even on here, like things like, is it on the hold shelf? Is it, still on a cart somewhere? Where is it in the whole process of going through the library? So making sure I could handle all those different situations. And so we worked with them and we got this set up so that you could color code off of the availability. And at a glance, a user could look at this and say, oh, this is available, this is not available. The nice thing is, it's still got the text there. So even if they can't, if you're dealing with a colorblind individual, that sort of thing, they still have the ability to see that it's there. This is just kind of a convenience thing, make it a little bit easier. Once I got this out there were a lot of other libraries that I discovered had this same issue, especially on the public side. On the academic side, there were a lot of libraries that liked this idea, but they were more keen on it just being more subtle. So let's just have the status itself highlighted instead of the entire box. And so we've actually, I don't have a slide of it, but we've actually created a different version of this that academic libraries can turn on, and it just gives a little green shadow or red or really any other color you want depending on the status to appear there and let users kind of at a glance see what the status of an item is. All of that to say, all of this customization work came out of one conversation and effectively two problems that particular library had, and then we were able to create this solution and share it with any library that wanted it. And that's again where a lot of the App Store stuff comes from. Another example of this is custom limiters. We had a library that they just really wanted a limiter that limited to print books. They didn't like the fact that the books limiter rolls in a lot of different publication types. Well, it's possible to limit to print books already. If you go and you limit to the catalog and then you limit to books, it's kind of preset to say, okay, wait, if they're already limiting to the catalog and they do limit to books, they probably just want print books. But that's a couple of extra steps. It's not that intuitive for an undergraduate user who's just kind of coming to the library for the first time. So print books limiter was the original name of this, and all it did was go in, apply some Boolean search terms so that it would search on just print books, and then hide those Boolean search terms so the user didn't have to worry about it. But then we thought, what else could we limit to? Since we were kind of going with this Boolean approach. And so now we have custom limiters. So really any Boolean search you can come up with, we can apply that as a custom limiter named whatever you want. And it'll go, when they click on that, it'll apply that search logic whenever the search is done, but then hide it so that the user isn't overwhelmed by what are all these other search terms that are in here, or accidentally delete them if they do a new search, but they still wanted to stay within that limitation. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we also do a lot of work with sites to consult on things like API development. So we'll go out to individual sites, and then again, this is kind of a list of some of the different interfaces that we've got to work with, and talk about how does the API work, what are the best ways to call on it, what are the best practices when working with the EDS API, those kind of things. And again, we've gone as far as Eric Fryerson's built this really nice blacklight gem to make it super simple for people to integrate EDS into Blacklight if they're using that. And then I believe we've got a nice Drupal module now so that people can just plug in the Drupal module, plug in their information to it, and run with it. But whether it's you're building your own homegrown thing from scratch and no interface, or something where you are trying to do integration with an existing platform, we're here to help consult on that information. So we talked about how we can customize the look and feel of your data, but let's talk about how we can integrate other systems with that data that you've got in EDS already. This is my second favorite joke in this slideshow. So Springshare was one of the first people that we were able to get some pretty deep integration inside the EDS result list. We've been able to do a lot of things like this with other vendors since, but this is still one of the most popular, if not the most popular app in the App Store that people like to turn on. In the beginning, we just had the little right side placard that's kind of at the bottom right of the screen there, and that went on the right side of the screen. It showed the results, but we really didn't feel like that was a deep enough integration. I mean, what we saw was users use the right side of the page if they're looking for specific things like chat or specific resources that they're not seeing represented in EDS the way they expect. And so what we did instead is we said, well, what if we could create a placard within the result list and not just pull in research guides, but anything from the Springshare API. And so David Podboy, one of the other library services engineers, did a lot of work, a lot of back and forth conversation with Springshare so that we could get this really solid integration and this placard built. And then we did some interesting things with it in that you can move it. So if you want it to appear right at the top of the results, you can. If you want to move it to the bottom of the results, you can. If you want it after the third, the fourth, the fifth result, you can set it there, and that's where it's going to appear. So you have a lot of control over where it goes, what interfaces it connects to, and we've even been able to work on limiting it, so that if you want to limit it to only searching certain tags or certain pieces of your Springshare, we can do it. It's a little tricky, and it takes a lot of work on the library side to get their Springshare products at that point to do that more heavy-duty lifting on limiting. But it's a possibility, and so this is again, one of the most popular ones we've got. Also, anything that I'm talking about today that is a customization, these things should be in the App Store. If you want any of these, either talk to your sales rep or just send in a support ticket that this is something you want installed, or just go to the App Store and click the request for that specific thing. You can find them all in there. So Springshare Unified Search came out, and this was one that we wanted to integrate the other direction. We were pulling LibGuides into EDS. Why don't we pull EDS into LibGuides? And so if you go into the Springshare Unified Search, there's a very easy way to integrate your EDS content, as long as you have an EDS API profile, directly into that Unified Search. And while I haven't messed with it in a while, I believe Unified Search still even has a bento box display. So you can, if you want the easiest possible implementation of a bento box search, integrating EDS with that Springshare Unified Search is probably the best way or easiest way to do that. We also wanted to be able to handle situations where a user is searching for something that a discovery service just isn't designed to show them. At St. Edward's University, my old site, we had the top two searches were library hours and parking. And I assure you, they were not searching for academic journals on library hours whenever they typed library hours into that big search box on our library homepage. So we were really trying to find a way of how could we deliver this kind of one search experience where they could. We didn't want to tell them, don't put that in the search box. We wanted to be able to give them the information they were searching for. That's the same mindset that went into this item matcher placard. So if a user comes in and they search hours, you can configure it so that it does give them either the hours right there in a little placard or a link out to where those library hours can be found. If they come in searching for specific databases, they put in JSTOR, like this example, in the top, or Web of Science, or really any source of platform, anything like that. You can set it up so that if this is getting searched frequently, it pops up this placard. One of the other really cool things about the item matcher placard is that it's driven by XML now, XML that you can host on your own site. So you host that XML on your own site. We target that for the placard. So whenever the search is done, it's going to query that XML and look for anything that matches a stop word there and show that at the top of the result list. But the nice thing there is that if you need to make changes to it, it's there. It's on your own server. You can do it there. And in the cases where you don't have a server to host that on, we're more than happy to put it on our stuff. There's just a little bit more lag time when you want to make a change and getting that into the hosted side of things. So Google Analytics was one of the things that we integrated with early on, with just, here you can see what topics are being searched or what search terms are being used and how many sessions that you've got. But we got to thinking about it and we're like, what else could we do with this? Because this is kind of cool data. And again, we all have library backgrounds here. We all love to see how users are really using those individual services. So the Google Analytics Advanced app came out. And we did a lot of work on it to make sure that you could see what individual elements on the page were actually being looked at. So did they click a facet? Which facets did they have active for this search? Which ones did they get rid of? What limiters are they applying? Did they click on one of the placards that have appeared here? Did they go into the advanced search from basic search? Did they go into the search history? Which page are they going to? Those kind of things. One of the earliest pieces of data that we started pulling from Google Analytics, as well as some other analytics data that we were trying out doing, was that users weren't going past the first page. And we had suspected that for a really long time, that users weren't going past the first page. But then all of a sudden we had this data showing us that 97% of users were not going past the first page, and it just it kind of vindicated that mission of get the best results on the first page. It really made us a little bit stronger in our focus of, okay, this is absolutely what we need to be doing. So Google Analytics Advanced, again, this is one of those things that you can go to the App Store and request and have this added to your site. Stack Maps was another one of these integrations. I think it's the last one that I've got in this list, but Stack Maps was one. I've got one more after this. Stack Maps was one where the company, Stack Maps, does these really good maps of where library materials were, and people wanted to use EDS as their catalog, so we wanted to be able to give them a way to link to those Stack Maps integrations. And so they worked with us, and we were able to build connections to the API such that we can add those map it icons or buttons to catalog items, and users can see, where is this on the shelf? Where does this exist in my library? This is much like Springshare products. This is the thing where you have to have the subscription there already with the other service, but we can pull that integration into EDS. It was wrong. Yeah. Here's the last one. So Save PDF to Cloud was another really cool one where we were able to go out and say, we had a lot of users that wanted to put their PDF links directly into Google Drive or Dropbox or OneDrive. So they could easily just store a bunch and then go back and look at them later. And this is tricky because we need to make sure that people weren't permanently storing PDFs in those locations. But we were able to integrate with these other products so that they can click on, save this to my Google Drive, and then they can go to their Google Drive, and as long as it's within that, time frame that those are allowed, they can get to that PDF, read it, do whatever they want to do with that PDF from their own storage places. So making sure that it's easy for the end user to still use the things they're used to using while using library search engines is the goal here. All right, so that's the stuff that we've been able to integrate into EDS. Let's talk about experiments. Let's talk about the new inventions in EDS, the ways that we've been able to go and just you really boldly go further with what our data can do. I'm full of puns, I promise. So the Did You Mean feature was one of the first kind of experimental things that they started doing with EDS, and this worked really, really well. And so years ago, there was a Did You Mean feature already in EDS. Frankly, it was terrible. It was working off this dictionary that didn't do a very good job of figuring out what a fuzzy match really was. For example, if somebody does search for fatherhood initiative, instead of giving them, oh, you probably meant fatherhood initiative, it would say, oh, you probably meant fatherhood definitive, because it felt like that was closer, and nobody was searching for that. Now what it does is it's a lot more intelligent in how it's collecting its information. So we did seed it with a little bit of did you mean suggestions, but we also set it up so that it's looking for times when a user types in a search and then doesn't click on a result, but types in a new search after that and then clicks on a result. If the two searches are really close together, there's just a couple of words different, it's going to say, you know what, that might be a did you mean suggestion, and it's going to log that as something that we need to look at and see, is this a did you mean? If it happens enough, it's automatically going to say, you know what, let's start showing this did you mean in case this is what people actually meant. You'll already see in your EDS, these results may also be available for, in a lot of these cases, as long as this feature is turned on. And that's in your admin under the searching tab. The did you mean option is there to be turned on. This one, I believe, was globally turned on for people. So it's already there. It's been there for probably 1.5 years now. And it's been learning. So whenever somebody actually clicks on one of those did you means, it goes, oh, I was right about this one, and it logs that. And it says, oh, I'm more sure that this was right. I didn't have a chance to update my slides. I'd hoped I would. I'm on the road right now, but we have since added auto-corrected searches. So when we did this presentation back in October, auto-corrected searches were not available in EDS. They are now available. They are turned off by default right now, but I believe in June or July, it's going to be more of an opt-out process because we're confident that it's working the way we expected now. But in this case, if somebody does an incorrect search, then it's going to show them results. If it's very confident that that's the correct spelling of the search, it will show them results for the correct spelling. and again, give them a search instead of the one that they did before. You know, Shakespeare is usually my example. If somebody types in Shakespeare without the E in the middle, you know, the bard spelled his name lots of different ways, so they're going to get results there, but it's probably not what they meant. And now it's going to go ahead and kick them over to Shakespeare, but if you get that obscure research project where you are looking for misspellings or alternate spellings of Shakespeare in history as Shakespeare, you've got a way to click on that search and go back to what you actually meant. And this is what they're expecting out of Google already, and most of their search engines they're using. This is already what a student's getting. We want to make sure that the experience they're getting on the library website is as comfortable as the experience that they're having in Google or Amazon or any of these other you know, major search type products that they're using on a regular basis. Citation search is also very new. I don't think we've officially announced this is out yet. So all of you here are kind of getting oh yeah, this is on, this is running in your EDS. So right now, if you grab a citation, drop it into your keyword search in EDS, it's going to try very hard to find that citation. If you had dropped a citation into your EDS just you know, a year ago, 6 months ago, the system would have choked on it. It didn't know how to handle all of that. It still does sometimes, and we're getting a lot better about getting to the items we're after. We're closing in on 90% accuracy with citation search. This, you know, honestly is probably the feature in my library heart of hearts I got the most excited about when I saw it going live and I was able to successfully do it the first couple of times. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish we'd had this back when I was still, you know, on the other side of the table here. So anyway, please feel free to go in, grab some citations, throw it in there. Like I said, we're closing in on 90% success rate, so you're likely to get some failures, but those failures are going to help us get better because the system knows when it's trying to get a citation and it knows when it failed. And so they're looking at those back in Ipswich as they're analyzing what didn't go through and why didn't it go through. So again, this is in your EDS right now. You're more than welcome to play around with it. Related searches is a thing that's coming. We actually have a kind of rough app type framework that we can do this with now, but we're working on getting this integrated directly into EDS. And what you're seeing on the right-hand side there is kind of a behind-the-scenes prototype that we've been using to test how accurate is this. Is it working the way that we're expecting it to, that sort of thing. And again, this is getting more towards, let's make the library resources as friendly as the resources that they're using on a daily basis, you know, the Googles, that sort of thing. So I don't know that we have a date on this one yet, but I know we're getting closer and closer to this one actually being available kind of as an early process for EDS. The top search terms report came out last year, I think around summer. And this has been one of the coolest reports that they've rolled out in a long time. It does give you that nice visualization on the left-hand side within whatever date range you've assigned to it. So you can kind of get an idea of what have people been searching recently. You can see things that are trending, so what's been searched by more users recently, and then you can see which ones have been searched just frequently. So you will notice there's a difference between, on that bottom list, search terms and frequency. If the same user or session is, you know, hammering away at the same search term, we don't consider that trending, right? It's one person that's using the search term over and over and over. But if we see that there are a lot of different users that are coming in and using that particular search term, that's when we say, okay, there's a lot of sessions that we're using that search term. We're going to consider that trending, and we're going to put that in that little top box up there, so you can see that. You can also tell this is our test instance because we've got, you know, our test and our FT-Y or FT inserts that we use to see what all is in, what all results we're going to get back. Another thing that we've been able to do, just kind of an invention type thing, is Curriculum Builder, and this is one of those things I know is available to all of you, and I want to talk about this because this started as kind of a dream back when me and Eric Frierson were both at St. Edward's University. He was my boss when I first started there. He's my boss now. It's funny how that happens. But we had this problem that we kept running into where we had people coming into the library calling us frequently. It's the calls, really, that we were constantly getting, where a user would say, or a faculty member would say, I added this yesterday to Blackboard and now it's not working today, and I don't know why your links are so terrible, and all this other. And we'd immediately go, okay, well, does your link have a session ID in it? Yes. Okay, well, this is how you get a permalink. And we were having that same conversation every day, at least once. So it was really starting to grate on us. And we're like, how else could we do this? Then we had a bigger issue come up where we had a faculty member come storming into offices of our collection development person, really upset because a database had been canceled. And we'd send out the email that the database was going to be canceled and all that, but he went to ask for his class and it was gone. And he went, why did you cancel this? I don't understand. I use this every single year. All of my students are using this every semester. And so we don't have the stats to support that. Our stats are showing that you're getting, 2, 3, 4 uses out of this every semester. It just doesn't look like we've got that much usage. At which point the faculty member went, oh, well, let me explain how I'm using it. And what it turned out to be was he was grabbing the PDFs, he was moving them to his own server, and he was linking out to his own server to get that information into Blackboard. We decided we were going to not fight that copyright battle that day, but we were more concerned at that individual moment was like, we don't have the stats for this. We're not getting stats when you do that. So sure, you've got 30 or 60 usages on that particular article from that particular database, but we're not going to see that because you've kind of circumvented the whole permalink structure. And the last thing that we ran into was it was really hard to get our LMS admins to work with us to get any form of library resource into the LMS, into Blackboard, which is what we were dealing with at the time. And so even after Eric left me at St. Ed's and came over to the EBSCO side, I spent the next 2 years fighting to get even our LibGuides into the discovery service. So this was kind of dreamed up as what if we could make a nice formal way to get library resources directly into the LMS and make them available for faculty members and students to use. And so Curriculum Builder was built as an LTI tool, which if you're talking to an LMS admin or you are an LMS admin, you probably already know what that is. It's a learning tools interoperability standard that allows us to integrate with anything. Moodle, Canvas, Blackboard, doesn't matter. As long as they're LTI compliant, we can plug into those different systems. And the idea here is that it allows faculty members to create reading lists by searching your discovery service via Discovery Service API connection. This does a bunch of different things for you. They don't have to worry about persistent linking. They're going to get a really easy link, which I'll show you in a second, that allows them to just click and add it to their list. You don't have to worry about copyright compliance because you are linking the same way that they would link to this normally via a persistent link. It's going to give you those usage statistics because now all of those clicks on full text, whether it's the student or the faculty member, doesn't matter. That's going to be feeding into your EDS statistics. And one of the cool things is, since it's coming in through an API profile, you can actually split it out. You can see where's my usage for Curriculum Builder coming from, and how good is it versus what's my normal EDS usage, and get a good idea of how it's being used, as well as Curriculum Builder has its own stats built in to show you how many lists are being created, who's doing that sort of thing. And probably most importantly, and the thing that I really wanted to see happen was this makes it easy for the library to get into those LMSs, or at least easier. And that makes the library more visible. It makes faculty members more aware of the value of the library, and that's always one of those things that we find to be important. As mentioned, the librarians have their own administration dashboard. This was another important thing because even when I finally got our LibGuides content into the LMS, it was like pulling teeth if I needed to make even a minor change on what that looked like. Because you have your own admin dashboard and all your IT does is hook up that one little LTI link in there, if you need to change the look and feel of Curriculum Builder, you can do that via CSS sheets if you need to go in and change, you decide you don't want to show certain limiters, you can go and change that without having to go through, go back through your IT administration. It just kind of makes it easy on everybody, including IT. It's not a, we're not trying to necessarily circumvent IT. We're trying to make it to where they don't have to work as hard whenever we do need to make that minor change, or the library needs to make that minor change to what they're dealing with. So this is kind of what it looks like in the admin here. It does collect a lot of information that's really useful. We initially didn't collect which students clicked on which items, but then we found there was a lot of pushback from faculty members because they said, no, this is what I get out of everything else in the LMS. I know which students clicked on what. Let me know this in this system. And so we second-guessed that, and we've got that in there now, although it is toggleable. You can turn it off if it's something that you don't agree with or you don't want in your system. And that's all, again, in that custom admin interface that you have access to. So that, as well as that custom CSS, that sort of thing is there. And again, talk about who's clicked on what. Here's an example of that. An individual item that's in the reading list. You'll notice that there's some easy buttons for them to use here to get those out or change things. This has changed a little bit, so it's a little bit easier on the eyes now. But they can see when they toggle this down which users have actually gone in and clicked things. They can see at a more global level which users, students have actually looked at the list at all. I don't have information on faculty depression level since we added that, but they can see one way or another who's been in and who hasn't. And that's what you would see at the top of the list there. Faculty members can copy things over. So if they have a list that they've used before, they can copy it to a new course if they want to. They can add notes inside of this, so individual text instruction. I've seen things as simple as this: read chapter 5 and 6. I've also seen faculty members that wrote an entire assignment in this note field, so that it was in the reading list right there, and then the things they wanted them to read in order to write whatever paper they were supposed to write on, all that stuff was below that instruction. So it's a nice kind of one-stop shop. From the student perspective, and again, this version that you're seeing is our basic format. You can do a lot of CSS stuff to change the look and feel. But from the student perspective, all they're going to see is the links out to all this different content. So they can just go straight to those items. As I mentioned, it is LTI compliant, so it works with pretty much everything out there. So another one of those kind of experiment things, right? We're working on a thing called Contextual Help. And what this does is, let's say a user does a search and then they start scrolling down. We know that if the user doesn't see their result in like the top 5, odds are they're going to scroll a little bit and then they're going to go back to the top and they're going to rewrite their search term because they think they're wrong. What Contextual Help does is, if they start scrolling down, we assume that they think that they're wrong, and we give them some options for how they could use the facets and limiters on the left-hand side. We can even have it set so that when they click in the result booster itself on whatever the limit suggestion is, it applies that limiter to their search. This is actually was in beta when we were talking in October, and it's still one of those things that we're trying to make sure it works the way we want it to. But it's one of those LSE type experiment things where we're getting to do this kind of for a specific site that wanted this, and now we're trying to get it to a point where it'll work really well with anybody who wants to use it. All right, the last kind of experiment thing that I want to talk about here, this one's my baby, to be quite frank. It's called Launchpad. What Launchpad is our attempt to try and make it very easy for students to do quick pre-search on their phones. And so pre-search was a term that we started hearing out of our UX department at EBSCO, and this was actually one of the things that was in collaboration with them. And so what we did is they were talking to users about, how are you using your smartphone to do research against your library's website? And they went, well, I'm not really using my smartphone for that. And we went, what do you mean? Like, well, I'm not. Most of them weren't reading PDFs on their site. They weren't trying to get to the full text on their phone. It was happening, but it just wasn't happening very frequently, which surprised us because we thought, you're doing everything on your phone. You have to be doing this too. So they changed their question. They started saying, if you were going to use your phone for research on a paper, how would you do it? And what would be your dream way of doing it? And they said, well, if I'm being really diligent, then maybe I get an assignment, I'm either still sitting in class, or I'm standing in line for coffee between classes, or I'm walking to the next class, something like that. I might pull out my phone, go to the library website, do a couple of searches, tag a couple of items that I want to read later, and then after I've done that, then I can come back to it in a couple of weeks when I've got time, and I've at least got some articles already pre-selected that I can kind of vet and see, is this what I want to use now that I'm ready to sit down at the computer, really read this stuff, and see what I've got. We thought that was a really, really cool idea. It was a completely different approach than what we've traditionally done with mobile interfaces. We've just tried to present the exact same options in mobile as what we were showing on the normal website view. So Launchpad is this prototype that we're working on getting it so that students effectively download this app, authenticate to their individual library once per semester time span, and then they can go in here and do very quick searches on whatever topics they need to search at the time. I, in fact, just last night got a very nice full white paper write-up on some user testing on this from our usability department, and it made me so happy because we've been kind of languishing for a while in the need to get that kind of feedback, to get that real details on how it works. I'm hoping we're about to do a big push to get this more formally out there. So I would try to do a live demo of this, but I'm on my phone's internet and I don't trust it. So I'm going to show you some screenshots of what this looks like. So again, imagine you're in that app interface here. You come in, you do a quick search. We're going to do Shakespeare here. There are a couple of very simple limiters that are below it. And we've kind of translated these into student language here. How much time do you have for this project? So we can say, do you need it now? So you need it available online. Can you pick it up from the library later? Or do you need to wait and get it via ILL? We've got different options there that they can select. And then what kinds of content do you want? We're defaulting to scholarly and peer-reviewed because that's what we're hearing is what they're after when they're going into EDS. But they can turn that off. There's also some other limiters below there you can't see that are for ebooks, or a give me everything that kind of overrides everything else and says, okay, they're just looking for absolutely everything we can throw at them. Once they do that search, they're going to get a truncated list of results here. It's showing very basic information. What kind of an item are we looking at? How long is it? How recent is it? What's the title? What's the source? If they want additional information, they can hit more info. If an abstract is available, it'll show the abstract. It'll show any subject terms, which we have relabeled here as main topics. Again, talking to user research and seeing what are they seeing students want to do here. And we're working on the iconography to see if, what works best for the student here. If they like the item, and I can't show you the animation here to show you how it works, but if they like the item, they can swipe right to keep it. If they don't like the item, they can swipe left to get it off of their list. So we're trying to make it this kind of friendly mobile interface that has behavior similar to what they're already doing with other things. I've heard one person that looked at it laugh and kind of in a fun way say it's like Tinder for discovery services. And I went, oh, yeah, basically it is. So once they've got their lists made, they can go in, they can send an email to themselves. And then the email is where it gets really interesting because we're working to set this up so the library can customize this however they want. So they go in, they get this email where it tells them, thanks for searching Launchpad, the things that the limiters they chose. So they know, if they did select, if they chose to delay these things for ILL, they would have that information there. And then we have their results list. And right now I've just got the title in here and the links out to it. Again, we're gearing up for another push on the code here, and my hope here is that we'll be able to get the full citations in here so that they've immediately got their bibliography effectively built. I'm imagining at the point of export, they choose a citation type, and then it exports out to that stuff. We want to put it in related searches. Again, that's a thing that's coming, so we've got our fluffy kittens placeholder there, but the idea is that'll have related searches they could click, bounce back out to the library resource, and have that search executed there. And then the rest of that is all stuff that could be customized by the library. Let them know, who could they contact for more information, give them links to the chat service, give them links to Ask a Librarian services, whatever kind you have, embed videos on how to do other searching tips, that sort of stuff. So again, we're trying to make this so that it's really easy for the students to use, and then when they're ready to sit down at the laptop, let's be honest, probably a day or two before the papers due, they've got a good jump start right here that they could just get into those services and hit the ground running. So just before we go a little further, I do want to say if you have any thoughts or interest in the Launchpad app, I would love to hear it. You can also email me separately afterward. I'll put my email in the chat so that you've got it. But I would love to hear feedback on what you think about that concept, what you think about that direction for mobile searching. Because as I said, we're getting ready after this paper we got yesterday to really dig in and see how far can we push this. So let's talk specifically about Lewis and EDS. How are we working with you guys, right? Notice that in this situation, you guys are the captain. We are working with you to make sure that we're presenting your data in the way that you want it done, and we want to hear what you want to do with your EDS. So the first project that we did was the Symphony API integration with real-time availability. At this point, I believe all of the Lewis catalogs are using the Symphony API in order to pull in that real-time availability information. This is a slightly faster method than what we were getting out of Z3950. It appears to be more reliable so far. I'm really positive about it. It was kind of our gateway into working on deeper Symphony API integrations. And we've got a lot of different projects that we're working on to try and dig deeper and deeper into that. The eTextbooks limiter was another one that came out. I'm not sure who all is using it yet. I know Eric Frierson was working with a few sites on this, and that goes in and looks at the 965 field in order to figure out, is this a textbook or an electronic textbook, and limit to just those items. That seemed to be some direction that you were going. We wanted to be able to meet that specific need. Let's see, do I have the other one? I don't have the other one in here. So another thing that we've been working on recently, and again, I've been on the road or I'd have a new slide in here for it, is getting holdings information, like your holding summary information into EDS. There is a prototype out there right now that's able to do it, but it's showing the link for every single catalog result, and some of those don't have holding summaries. So I'm working with Cersei right now to see what's the most efficient way to go in and check and see, okay, does this have a holding summary? If it doesn't, then don't show it. If it does, let's go ahead and show this link. I could do it with the call I've got now. It's just kind of a heavyweight call, and I'd like to not be looking for so much information when I do it. So that's hopefully coming to an EDS near you soon. So the last thing, how do you get things done, right? Again, you guys are the captain here. We're waiting for you to tell us what to do, and then we'll engage in whatever new endeavor you want. So EBSCO Apps and Cloud Services is one of the easiest ways to go through and get things. You can go to cloud.ebsco.com. Everything is there that we've got live that we're sharing with anybody under the app section. So you can kind of just browse through it. There were 164 in there yesterday. There are 170 in there today. So 6 new ones just in the last 24 hours popped up. And these are being added to globally. So while there's now 8 of us in the United States, there's over 40 library services engineers worldwide. And everybody's kind of feeding stuff globally into this apps and cloud services. So not everything's going to be relevant to your audience. I wouldn't turn on all 170 apps. That would just be a mess. But there's definitely some gems in there that may be relevant to you and your site. Lastly, how to get things done, talk to your sales rep. I believe you already have access to apps and cloud services, so you don't have to worry about that. If there's custom development that you want done, they're really good about nudging us and saying, hey guys, they want this custom search box, can you help? Curriculum Builder, again, I think you already have access to that, but they're a good source for if you're having issues with that or anything like that. And then if you just want a review of your EDS instance, they're the first step in getting that done. So if you talk to them and you say, hey, you know, we'd just like somebody to look at it and make sure we're doing well, there's nothing here that we could do better, you can ask your sales rep. They'll contact us, Madeline Dell in particular, who is your new rep, is the one they'll likely talk to. Get her out to site and be able to look at your EDS site and review it in detail. I had to apologize to the sales team after this slide from for the Ferengi, but I love it still. So anyway, do you have any questions? I'll watch the chat here if you want to unmute, that sort of stuff. The hashtag's not legitimate anymore, so I probably wouldn't use it. So anyway, any questions from anyone?
Don't be shy. Yes, you're also welcome to unmute your mic and ask the question, but if you feel more comfortable typing any questions you have in the chat box, please do so. Remember to switch your drop down to everyone so that everyone can see your question.
And again, if you don't have any right this second and you come up with others later, the easiest way to get to us is through that sales rep. I will throw my email in the chat. Let me do that real quick. But again, Madeline, who I don't have her email handy, is your primary rep now, or not rep, library services engineer. I mean, it's a very different thing, sales rep versus a library services engineer. But you're welcome to email me. If it's something like a site review, I'll probably pass it back over to her if that's what you're after. If it's just, hey, here'd be a cool thing that we could do, I'll pull her in too, but I'll probably still deal with it because I love cool new things that a library wants to do.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. Right. Well, it looks like you wowed them. You answered everything they had.
I hope so. Well, again, if you have any more questions, feel free to send them to me. And thank you so much for your time. I definitely appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed this. Mike. I enjoy, like I said, I enjoy being able to throw all the puns out in the presentation. So thank you for giving me the chance to do that again.
You're welcome. Anytime.
All right.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us for this month's Learning with Lewis. The next Learning with Lewis is at the end of March.